Okay, hello. Today is the 14th of May 2023, and we'll talk about two architects, both very interesting and very important. We'll start with Marco Zanuso, an Italian designer and architect. And let's read a little bit about him. I took this wording from the web. Marco Zanuso, the architect with the soul of a designer. Somebody wrote this because he was a very accomplished designer, but he also built some buildings in a very convincing way. So Marco Zanuso was born in Milano, in Italy, in May 14th, 1916. He was one of a group of Italian designers from Milan shaping the international idea of good design in the post-war years. Trained in architecture at the Politecnico di Milano University, he opened his own design office in 1945. From the beginning of his career at Domus, where he served as the editor from 1947 to 1949, and at Casabella, where he was editor from 1952 to 1956, he helped to establish the theories and ideals of the energetic modern design movement. I would add here that it's very common for important Italian architects to also, allocate their energy, so to speak, to, theoretical matters and to be involved with important architectural journals, just like he was. As a professor of architecture, design, and town planning at the Politecnico from the late 1940s until the 1980s, and as one of the founding members of the ADI in the 1950s, I don't know what ADI is, he also had a distinct influence over the next generation coming out of Italy. Maybe ADI is the Academy of Design, or I don't know. Anyway, this was the man. An intense man who smoked. Today, not too many architects or designers smoke that, but at that time, they did. I like him. I like the expression of his face. It's not the expression of a star architect, but he was, or a star designer. Today it's very common to have photographs with people, showing happy-go-lucky faces. Well, his face doesn't express such a thing at all, although he had reasons to be actually proud of what he did. Here is a picture with four sacred monsters of the Italian design. Achille Castiglioni, Vico Magistretti, Marco Zanuso, and Ettore Sozzas. They also built. So, he was in an excellent company. These are four giants of Italian design and architecture. Achille Castiglioni, Vico Magistretti, Marco Zanuso, and Ettore Sozzas. And here he is with probably his own daughter on a bench. And I like this picture very much, because how many of the star architects of today would be photographed even in such a humane posture? I don't know of any, really. So another plus for Marco Zanuso, yes, with his daughter, as it is written under the picture. Lyrical rationalism. I guess I found these words about his work on the web, and I think is very relevant for us and for our time. Well, here is more than a lyrical rationalism. It's almost an aggressively exuberant rationalism. I just show a few images, of his work, and then we'll go into detail. This is an apartment building that he built and has some offices as well in Milan. And you can see that he was not hesitant to also use ornament on the blank parts of the walls. So it has a different kind of sensitivity than some other architects, or maybe many more other architects. Um, Perhaps what I read at the beginning is at least in part true, that he was an architect with the soul of a designer. But he also understood very well tectonics, like you can see in this building. I mean, this is a very solid building and built according to the rules, so to speak, with masonry walls. He also built like this, you know, in a innovative, way of using the structure aesthetically, appealing. Pottery Fabric. This is a work he did, a factory. You can see in this section, actually, you see the designer in the architect. But I think because he was trained as an architect, he was not trained as a designer. And he yes, he became famous with designs, interior, I mean, with industrial designs, but also the buildings he built, I think, are not just examples of good design, but also examples of a good architecture. Casa Arzale, if I pronounce well, I don't know Italian, in Sardinia. Now look at this, you know, this is not the work of an industrial designer. This is the work of an architect who understands stone and knows how to work with stones, knows how to place windows in a masonry wall, and there are convincing interior spaces. Sardinia. He built actually several, and you see here the very pleasing organization of the space with the interior spaces in the corner, and in the middle an open, like an atrium, an open courtyard with table, chairs around, and so on, and with a beautiful framed view of the sea. Not bad. I wouldn't mind at all living in such a house. Marco Zanuso. I mean, there is a high level of rurality here. You know, it's not what you would expect from a sleek, I mean, it's not a polished, sleek design. Look at the chairs. I mean, these are not chairs of, high-end design. Well, he didn't make probably the chairs, but they populate the courtyard of the building. And here you see the plan. The plan is diagrammatic. When you look at the plan, you don't actually have an idea about the tectonics, tactility, and the romanticism of the whole of the atmosphere of the house. Looking at the diagram of the plan, you think this is a very abstract and rationalistic scheme, but the reality of the building is not like that. Marco Zanuso in Sardinia. small windows, and just a day or two ago, I advocated the cause of small windows because I'm tired of so much curtain walls where the whole building is covered in glass, which is not sustainable at all. If we care about the electrical bills, and if we care about the climate, and if we care about what we call sustainability, we cannot continue to use giant amounts of glass. I mean, even Philip Johnson, who built for himself a glass house, a famous glass house, modeled on the architecture of Mies van der Rohe, said that, the glass house meant a lot, large, opulent, if I can say so, opulent electrical bills. Vernacular modern. Indeed, in a way, we can describe this work by Marco Zanuso as a vernacular modern. Casa de Vacaciones. We already saw images with this house. He built several. Now, Marco Zanuso and Adriano Olivetti. Now we go to a very different kind of work. He was in good terms with the Olivetti family. I imagine there were several members of the Olivetti family, but Adriano was maybe the boss. I don't know the details about but this is a famous company in Italy. They used to make typewriters, very well designed, and probably Marco contributed to the design of the machines that Olivetti produced. But here we see them, the Mr. Olivetti on the left and Marco Zanuso on the right, the client and the architect together. And let's look now what they did together. Fabrica, meaning the factory Olivetti in Sao Paulo, in Brazil, 1957, 1959. He actually built two, one in Brazil and one in Argentina. And you see, it's a modern design. You wouldn't really expect, after seeing those, houses for vacation in Sardinia, the same architect to do this sort of thing. And you see the innovative way in which he employed the structure and the domes. And this is, I think, the one in Argentina, also for Olivetti. Sorry, so this is for in Sao Paulo during construction. And this is, I guess, a different fact. I don't know very well why I included this. It's an image, you see here the typewriters. It's an image which shows that this is what Olivetti used to do. I don't know what Olivetti does now when typewriters became obsolete. So this is, I was always a little bit confused here. I guess maybe he built three, because here is another one, but it's not the one in Argentina. I have to double check this. I thought he only built two, one in Brazil and one in Argentina. This is in Argentina, Olivetti, Argentina, and you see the plan is very different. So it might be that he actually builds three factories for Olivetti, but I don't know where the third one is. This one is also interesting in terms of structure, and here you can see truly the soul of the designer, because it is a sleek structure, and the attention to detail is of a certain kind, which perhaps architects in general do not have. a sophisticated structure actually, and you see the design of the column is very refined. And here also, the way the roofing is supported by the horizontal elements of the structure, and then the combination with the vertical part, and this requires indeed the soul and the hand and the intelligence of an industrial designer or a designer. Very fine concrete work. Here I can see almost anything. Sorry, but it's a section through the structural system that he used. Now the IBM headquarters in Milan, Santa Palomba, 1968, 1979. This is also a fine example, I think, of his abilities as an architect. Is almost in international style. It makes me think of some international style architects from Scandinavia, particularly from Denmark. But it's well done, and it's an industrial building. But I mean, industrial in the sense that IBM was involved and is involved with technology, but it's actually a complex of buildings with offices. Maybe some labs and some ateliers, I don't know. The Nuovo Piccolo Teatro in Milan, a theater in Milan, not bad. And, it is an architect's work here, not a designer's work, actually. Milan. I don't know why it is called piccolo. Is it destined for for children, or I doubt it, considering the banner on the facade. But you see, the facade is very well structured rhythmically with the good brickwork. And it has a certain level of austerity. Well, I don't know if this is austere. It's not, but I don't think he was responsible for this ice cream cone for upside down. Now, what is this? A manor house in South Africa. This is a beautiful house from 1975. Estate Manor House in Lydenburg, South Africa. So look at the landscape. It's like almost intimidating. I mean, what am I saying? Almost. I would feel almost afraid to live in this house. But it's almost like it's so majestic, the landscape and the positioning of this large house, that if I didn't read that it was by Marco Zanuso, built at the end of the 20th century, I would have said those are some remnants, maybe from Pharaoh's temple, or in Egypt. This is the plan, the sketch of the plan of the house, and it's very musical almost. I mean, it's temperamental, and it's structured, but it's also mysterious a little bit, and a little bit. It is indeed a lyrical rationalism. A temperamental a temperamental industrial designer. And look at the building. It's impressive. Well, of course, the landscape is impressive too, and the trees, but the building is convincing. It has weight. It has character. It has nerve, so to speak. And look at the building from above. South Africa, Marco Zanuso. Not bad. In my opinion, better than Valerio Olgiati in Portugal. Because while Valerio Olgiati used concrete, Marco Zanuso uses stone, and it connects with the landscape. Plus, it is open towards the landscape, as opposed to the his own house that Valerio Olgiati built in Portugal, which is almost claustrophobic and certainly misanthropic. Misanthropic even towards the animals around the house, because I saw pictures. It's not open towards the landscape, while this building is, despite the fact that it's, a massive, it's almost fortress-like, but the windows are not, they are not small windows in this case, they are large windows. A very interesting house, really. I would have been curious to know what Frank Lloyd Wright would have thought of this house. For some reason, I thought of Wright looking at this plan. Marco Zanuso, a very versatile designer and architect. Here, yes, we can tell that he was a designer, an interior industrial designer. And, you look at the buildings, but I will also show at least a picture from the inside where you can see the industrial designer. Excellent building. South Africa, Marco Zanuso. Very unusual walls, so thick. Modernity or late modernity avoided in general such thick walls, but not Marco Zanuso. I'm sorry. Although industrial designers, because they work with objects much smaller, of course, than a building, have a tendency to, even when they do buildings, to avoid such massive walls. That's why Marco Zanuso is rather surprising. And if you compare the building that we look at now with the objects he designed, you will understand the appreciable versatility of this designer and architect. A romantic fortress. Beautiful work. The interior is opulent indeed. But here you can see in the room for ping pong, playing ping pong, you see what's on the ceiling. There you see the Milanese industrial designer. Now I'll show towards the end of the presentation some of his industrial designs or his activity, some of the objects he designed as a designer. So here he was in an exhibition, Marco Zanuso designer. That telephone was designed by him. Here it is. Now, of course, we have different mobile phones, but at that time in the 70s, they were innovative. Or this fan, Marco Zanuso, and again try to conciliate or to see the man in his complexity. We just saw that building built with stone in South Africa, and the same man designed such mass-produced objects, or this lamp, extremely elegant and sleek. Italian design at its best. or this radio with two boxes, two amplifiers, and then they come together. Um, yeah, the kind of things you see in Domus magazine, Italian design, very appreciated worldwide, and Marco Zanuso was one of its champions. Radio. What is this? I don't know what this is, but it looks interesting. Some books published on him, about him, because he was very famous as a designer, Marco Zanuso. And here he was, an interesting man. And some playful chairs. Maybe he had in mind his daughter when he designed them. They are for children, but they indeed make one smile. This one doesn't make me smile, but it's probably very comfortable. Now look at this, probably the longest sofa in the world. I never saw such a long sofa. Probably for airports or I don't know what, or for his own, for that house he built in South Africa, which is itself very elongated. A little burlesque armchair, martingala easy chair. Very well crafted, these pieces of furniture by Italian designers, and very expensive, unfortunately. Sleep-o-matic sofa with an eye-catching name. It had to be connected with Milan, no? After all, it's the capital of design. And, I could joke that half of the population of Milan they are probably designers. Marcuso tables. This one I don't find so graceful with the thick cylinders as legs and glass on top. Lambda chair, very elegant. Mobile housing unit. He designed this for an exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in New York in 1972. This mobile housing unit was created for the exhibition The New Domestic Landscape at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. The unit was designed to be contained in a 20-foot ISO container and intended to be deployed in emergency situations. Now here, indeed, we see the designer. Everything is designed perfectly. An ergonomic house through and through. I don't know if it was mass produced, but it was made for this exhibition in New York. Marco Zanuso. The dream of humanity, to have a mass-produced house that was perfect, that is perfect, that has everything in it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit now, if you want, about Marco Zanuso, if you don't mind, because I think it's important to express a few thoughts about what we just saw.